Welcome, everybody, to the 2025 Insurance Marketing Trends webinar. We're so happy to see you. This is our second year doing the Insurance Marketing Trends, and I'm so happy and very lucky to have my friend Jen from Goose Digital here to join me. We are both insurance and marketing nerds. We mix both worlds together. And often when we get together, do we nerd out about what we're seeing in the industry, both like insurance wise and marketing? Yes, we do. And are people sick of us from talking about these things? Potentially, but you know what? You just have to be your true self at this point. A quick disclaimer for everybody. We are pre-recording this the day before, and that's simply because we find that we don't have time to interact with everyone on the chat. And by the way, thank you so much for everyone who's super active on the chats. It makes us feel great and that the content we're producing is worthwhile. So we are actually here live with you in the chat. Say hi, tell us where you're joining us from, and we'll continue to engage with you in the chat. And we hope you get some valuable insights that you can walk away with today.
Love it.
So yeah, let's a quick intro about ourselves. Jen, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, for sure. So hi, everyone. Welcome back to those who've been on this boot camp before. I'm Jen Pugsley. I'm a broker turned digital strategist. For the last decade, I've been helping brokers, carriers, and even MGAs create successful digital marketing strategies that in my, drive real growth and value. I think there's a lot going on in the industry and in the digital marketing industry, and we try to focus on low-hanging fruit, things that actually work and things that actually move the needle. So I'm super serious about helping our clients get the most out of their digital investments, because let's be honest, it's super expensive and takes a lot of hands.
Amazing. So for those of you who've never met me or don't know me, I'm Tanya Coburn. I was originally a musicologist, and I have this mug that says musicians do it better, turned marketer actually. So I was a broker first. So I have firsthand insurance managing and selling experience before I moved into the marketing side in 2013. I work with Trufla. I'm their VP of Marketing and Communications, and I work quite a bit with our clients on digital transformation and how to make the most of their technology by combining marketing tactics with the tools that we have.
Yeah, that's why we're a match made in heaven. I'm on the services side, Tan's on the tech side.
That's right. It's great. Yeah, we're best friends forever now since the moment we've met. So you guys are stuck with us. So why this webinar? Because honestly, there's been a lot of interesting changes both in the digital marketing world and the insurance world that we're going to dig deep into. And we hope that through this session, you walk away with a roadmap for navigating a lot of these murkier changes so that you can position your brokerage for success in 2025. Jen, do you want to go over the agenda for today?
Yeah, so we're going to try to keep this short and sweet. We tend to go over, again, another reason why we're recording this. We're going to talk about the state of the insurance industry, which I'm sure everyone is well aware of, but we're going to be focusing on it in the marketing lens. The state of B2C marketing in general. This whole webinar is about the top 6 trends that we're going to focus on, and then we'll have Q&A, obviously, in the live session tomorrow.
Amazing. Let's get to it. So, I've got some animations in here. Fancy. For those of you who use Canva, it's great until it cuts off your logo, but you know what? This is what it is. So let's talk about what happened in the industry in 2024 a little bit. So as everybody here knows, it was disastrous for catastrophic claim losses, especially weather related. And it recently came out that there was 8.5 billion in losses in 2024 alone. I think the year before was about 3.4 billion. So that is a huge jump. And based on what we're seeing in the US and around the world, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon, unfortunately. And then, of course, we're still continuing to see the talent acquisition issues. So the shortages in staff and finding talent has been increasingly difficult. And recently, I've been made aware that there have even been more demands on the administrative policy side on brokers from carriers, including renewal processing and sending out renewals to clients. I know some carriers are putting that upon you too. So there's a lot going on. And honestly, Jen, I don't know how a broker does it anymore. Like there's so many
I don't
demands
know
out
how
there.
a broker did it 15 years ago,
I
right?
know.
It feels like it's always been very labor intensive, and again, we know there's more than these three. We've just wanted to focus on some of the things that we can impact from a technical and marketing perspective.
And please comment on the chat. Like, do these top three things resonate with you? What are you struggling with in your brokerage? Let us know. We'd love to hear your input on this. Jen, do you want to talk a little
Okay,
bit
so
about this?
yeah, increasing cat claims and rising rates. I think that it's obviously a super hot topic. What we're seeing now in the marketing lens is that the marketing departments are now responsible for a content strategy that impacts and explains things like risk prevention, mitigation, through email, through ads, through a laundry list of online mediums. Managing customer expectations around rate increases. Like this is kind of like the elephant in the room. Nobody wants to talk about it, but customers are starving for, the why behind all of this. Retention strategies and customer loyalty. I mean, I think, it's critical now than ever because of all of these things that are taking place, particularly around rate increases, to get ahead of that interaction, right? You have to be proactive. And what does it actually mean to be proactive? So really about getting ahead, using your marketing tools, using your platforms to make sure that you are getting ahead of these conversations to your customers, but in the right way. Brand trust and perceived value. So I think a lot of the things that we see is that I think it's easy to get into your lens and you're a small brokerage or your medium-sized brokerage or even a large brokerage, but nobody really knows who you are. So spending a lot more time reinforcing your brand, how you're perceived in the public.
Absolutely. And as you all know, there are some regulatory changes coming through the various different provinces. And I'm not going to get into the specifics, but we all know they're coming. The biggest one is the Ontario regulation changes, especially in terms of accident benefits. And brokers are now asked to quote first without accident benefits in a policy. So what does that mean? Basically, it opens up a whole door, a whole like palace of E&O exposure, which means, and I feel for you, there's going to be a lot of customer education and awareness needed. I know there's reforms and changes coming in Alberta, possibly BC. And if anybody knows of any reform or any changes coming to insurance, let us know in the chat. But basically, it's the idea that marketing and communications department need to take on that education, compliance, prevention aspect of educating the client for three reasons. Number one, the broker's too inundated on their day-to-day. It's impossible for them to touch and educate every client because how many of you actually talk to each of your clients on renewal? It's not possible. A second, I think with a lot of these education campaigns that we're seeing, it's really a multi-channel approach because you might not see the email, but you might see it on social media. You might see it on your push notification on your app. So you really need to use that best practices, use 4 to 5 channels to try to get to your client. And that also includes the hold messaging on your phone. Put like a bulletin of, hey, these changes are coming. Ask your broker about it. How does it impact you? So those are some big things that I think is going to hugely impact communications in 2025.
And it helps, like to your point, Tanya, it helps control the message as well,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
it goes back to kind of maybe that talent gap in that there's so much power in some of these tools now that allow you to control the message. How does it need to be positioned? How does it need to be positioned for different audiences as well? So we'll get into that later.
That's a great point that list segmentation is so important when you're doing those awareness campaigns. So, of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't look at some of the trends that we saw in marketing in general for B2C in 2024. Jen, do you want to take the first point? Because I know that's your area of expertise.
Yeah, so digital, I guess it's declining in when we say traditional digital ads, which is kind of funny, but it's a true statement. So there's things like we see so much of kind of the same types of trends in digital advertising that took place even 24 months ago. So these tools are advancing so quickly in how your ads have to be displayed, or even penalties. Like, it's just crazy how many things come out where Facebook says, oh, you can't actually include a download anymore. That's going to get flagged as an error. Or the growing use of ad blockers and spam bots absolutely everywhere. So and we'll have some tips later on, but you really got to rethink, if you're running digital ads today, you got to rethink that strategy, and we're going to get into that on Trend 6.
Absolutely. And of course, there is an increased demand for personalization and authenticity. We live in a very disconnected world, and I'm going to get into that a little later in this deck here, but people are craving connection and they want to know that you're speaking directly to them and their needs. And so the way you can do that is by hyper data segmentation and really understanding what your customer book is. And a way to do that, honestly, is by leveraging AI, which we do get into. Speaking of AI, Jen and I were really the first to jump on the AI generated content bandwagon for the last couple of years. Hey, Jen. And we are masterminds when it comes to ChatGPT prompting. However, there is a general fatigue that was noticed in the industry in 2024 from like really badly done AI generated content. And of course, the reason for that is because it's missing that human element. And the biggest thing in marketing, the number one thing you need to do always in marketing is to make an emotional connection with your target audience. And so if you're not doing that, you're missing it. So we're going to go deep dive a little bit into how to properly use AI to avoid content fatigue. Oopsie, there we go. So, Jen and I did do our marketing trends webinar in 2024, and everything we said actually happened. So we're like fortune tellers, Jen. I mean, come on. So some of the big ones that did actually occur from last year, and if you guys are eager, we can put the link in the chat of the 2024 digital marketing trends if you're ever interested in watching it. But short form video dominance did take place, and that continues to rise, and we're going to dig deep into that as well. The rise of social commerce. So the idea of buying a product right on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, it grew by 19.4% globally to a $700 billion industry, which is insane. Influencer marketing, which we did not have in our 2024 trends, but I'm keeping a close watch on that because it's coming up also on B2B as well, not just B2C. And we're going to show you how you can leverage influencer marketing at your brokerage as well for 2025, because they project this is just going to keep getting bigger. Proactive communication. So we said in our 2024 trends that we have to do more claims awareness. And this is what people saw in the insurance industry, financial industry, is really educating people on money, on protecting their assets, on risk prevention, all of that. And that is going to continue to grow as things in our economy are trickier, whether it's financial budgets or environmental issues that are causing more losses that may not be covered. So that educational piece is going to be a big one. So yeah, Jen, anything to add on that? Or
yeah, Tanya and Tan knows how passionate I am about the whole risk prevention topic. I think it's going to continue to be a major trend over the next 5 to 10 years, and it's only going to get stronger. I think that we're having a webinar in early March with quick facts. So you guys aren't going to, we'll send a link in this chat, in the chat for tomorrow, but you're not going to want to miss that. That's all about risk prevention. So.
oh yeah, this is going to be a good one, guys. So how to use AI effectively. So listen, AI is not going anywhere at all when it comes to implementing it into your marketing strategy. In fact, 69% of marketers have already incorporated AI into their operations. 79% of CMOs, US data, sorry, it's always sometimes hard to find Canadian data, in 2024 have invested in AI. 26% of consumers find AI generated web content impersonal, and a 20% view AI social posts as untrustworthy. I'm going to dig deep into that later. And 76% of consumers express concerns about potential misinformation from AI generated content. So what is this saying? It's saying people are still adopting AI into their operations, but the content pieces are not maybe converting as well. So
Yeah.
what do Jen and I always preach? Jen, do you want to read our quote? This is what we preach.
Yeah, marketers should move beyond using AI solely for content creation and integrate it into their overall strategy, including automation, segmentation, and personalization. This approach, or this comprehensive approach, enforces efficiencies, delivers tailored customer communications. One thing I want to say here, like emphasize, is use it to build your strategy. So I think Tanya and I everybody's still learning about all of these different tools, right? And I'm trying to figure out, and there's a multitude of reasons why they're kind of falling, we're seeing that they need to be optimized. And part of that is that in the insurance industries, it's so complex that if you just don't understand the product, you're not able, your prompts aren't strong enough, your prompt engineering isn't strong enough, and what you're kind of left with is mediocre. And now the consumer is aware of that. Is it that you're not starting with the strategy? So you're going right to tactics, you're writing blogs, you're writing emails, you're writing web copy, and you're actually not starting with the strategy. So not to steal your slides here, Tam.
No, I love it. I love it.
That's exactly what we're saying.
Yeah, and look, I still use ChatGPT to write a lot of my content, but I do it a bit differently than maybe I've done it in the past because I think the stats like 56% of people worldwide feel disconnected. They're lonely. So how do we bring in, and this is something I'm preaching to my teams, to everybody who will listen to me, bring back the human element into your content writing. And it doesn't mean that you have to spend another, go back to the days where you'd write 1 or 2 content pieces a day. I am not saying that. Some of the ways you can bring in that real life experience is something like what Jen and I are doing right now. We're hosting our webinar. All of this content is from us. It is our experience. It's what we're seeing. It's what we have been doing the last decade. But when this webinar is over, I'm going to take a transcript and I'm going to turn it into an ebook. I'm going to turn it into a blog post, or maybe even a short form video pieces. And AI is going to do that for me. I'm not going to go and edit that transcript and make it into an ebook, but AI is taking my real world experience and doing the editing for me.
Yeah. It's a co-pilot, no pun intended.
It's a co-pilot, exactly. It's like Goose. Isn't that like Top Gun? Isn't there a Goose?
No, but it's co-pilot. It's an AI, right? So I just think it's hilarious.
But like the movie Top Gun. Isn't there a Goose? Guys,
yes,
comment in the there is. So you're like my Goose to the Tom Cruise, right? Maverick? Yeah, exactly. Maverick and Goose. That's it. That's our new name right now.
Maverick and Goose. We even have wings, so I can say
Oh,
something.
you have wings. Maybe that's where that came from. Yeah, I get it now. Okay, so another way you can bring in that human element is interview style. So maybe interview someone on the front line and be like, what are you seeing? What are some trends you're seeing in phone calls? What are some things that are keeping your customers up at night? And let's feed that into ChatGPT and get it to write a blog post. Or there's so many ways you can really combine the human element to make really good quality content.
Hey, let's just stay there for 2 seconds.
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Super important for new business. So what you said there about, whether it's your marketing team or an agency that you're working with or whoever that's doing your marketing, it's so critical that they look beyond the data that they have available to them and do exactly what Tanya said, meet with the front line, ask them questions, and the front line being your CSRs, your producers, your sales, because there's so many things that come out in there that you're then able to put into AI to come up with a really good campaign. right? Or even make your existing campaign better. So that was really key.
Thanks, Jen. Another thing that Jen and I are very passionate about is personalization. So according to Ernst& Young, this is a 2024 research paper that was published. If you send personalized messages to your book of business, you're 28% more likely to keep that business. So it just goes to show that hyper-personalization is here to stay, and it does have an impact. So you might be saying, how the heck am I going to do hyper-personalization when my BMS can't pull the data? Or, how do we do that? Like, our tools aren't really made for it. Well, it's time for me to plug in some Truthful, guys. So if you do have True Mobile already, or Data Hub, or one of our tools, you're able to, and this is just an example of how you can like hyper segment your policy data and send maybe like an evacuation alert because claim season is coming, forest fire season is only a few months away. And that message was sent in literally 1 minute because you were able to drill down, okay, I need home, tenant, condo insurance in Fort McMurray. It's being evacuated for a forest fire. So, and you can do that with anything. It could be like age, type of vehicle, there's a recall, or whatever. Like the sky's the limit when it comes to
Insurance company,
segmentation.
insurance company is a good one. So if you have a set of renewals where some information is super important between two different markets, that's how you use the segmentation, and that's how you get hyper personalized. When we talk about personalization, there's still a lot of companies that think, oh, that's first name, last name, and signed by my producer. It's much more than that.
Absolutely. Some of the ways Jen and I also use AI in our marketing is it's our brainstorm partner. So oftentimes when I'm creating a strategy, I'll be like, what do you think of this? Like, from what you know of the industry, does this seem right? And it's almost like, for those Star Trek people out there, my fellow Trekkies, it's like when the captain engages with the computer and it doesn't do the captain's job for him or her, it just makes their life easier. So it'll be like, map out the star system and what's the quickest route to get from Beta X planet. You know what I mean? It's the same thing here. It's just a faster route to get to where you need to go.
Yeah. Closing in on that one, Kate, before we go to predictive analytics for a sec, do you think, Tanya, do you think that it's going to be really difficult? Like, you're already starting to see, I don't know the right term here, the crap from the good. I know that's not the best grammar to use, but do you really see that it's almost going to be very difficult if you don't know insurance? It's going to be tough to translate to good marketing. I think if you are a marketer on this call and you don't have an insurance background, you should be making a big effort to sit with the SMEs in your office to learn everything you possibly can about what's going on the front line. I think I'm reiterating that from my last comment, but I'm just listening to you talk, and I think it's going to be pretty hard pressed if you've just entered this industry as a marketer to really hit home on some of these things.
I don't know how you can't have some basic insurance training and be a marketer right now in the insurance industry because it's so volatile. You have to, and it's not just about, here's the thing, here is the thing. If it was straight up about getting new business, fine, like do the SEO, do the ads, do the whatever. But if you're also talking about retention, loyalty, and advocacy, you have to know what the risks are, and you have to understand the insurance language and what people are afraid of and upcoming changes, big change, industry changes that are coming up. And I think it can feel overwhelming, but I know a lot of brokerages have carriers come in and do licensing classes that I used to pop into them all the time. I mean, I was licensed at the time, but I would just pop into whatever classes were being offered. And now all of these are virtual. So I really do encourage you to just learn as much as you can from the industry because it will make you stronger for sure. So our prediction, now this wasn't stated anywhere, Jen and I predict that predictive analytics is really going to soar for insurance in 2025. The reason for, I skipped. Wait, did I miss a slide? No, here we go. So some of the applications that you can use for predictive analytics, and what I mean by predictive analytics, it's like basically using your AI to see the future, which is super scary, but super cool at the same time. And you can kind of go into more behavioral selling. So we recently partnered, Trueflow recently partnered with Allianz Travel to go into our marketplace app, and they have a whole host of data, which is so fascinating from the last 10 years, behavioral data on when the age group and when they're most likely to buy travel insurance. So you could be like, okay, this person's 27, they're most likely to buy travel insurance at this time of year. I'm going to send them a campaign. So it's not only the who, but the when, that behavior piece that's so important to get that sale because that they could be thinking about traveling and don't even have. Anyway, trust
Yeah.
me, it's cool. Cancellation prevention. So knowing, being able to scan your book of business and knowing, hey, you know what, those rates are really high or those rates have increased because the way the economy is right now, people are on budgets, and they're more cognizant than ever on their expenses. So they're gonna see a rate increase and they're gonna shop around. So you want to be the person who does it on their behalf. And you know what? Some of the cool data that's coming up from our retention x-ray that we've been using with other brokerages, it's not that we've actually found retention for people we couldn't find like better rates for. They were just happy that
Yeah.
we even looked for them without prompting. So it's the idea of just them knowing that you care and you're shopping around for them before they think, oh God, they don't care. They're after my money. You know what I mean? So that's super cool. And then, of course, the risk mitigation. So, understanding, being able to scan your book of business and understanding where your risks are. Like, if you're in an area in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, that is known to be flooding in overland flooding in, let's say, April, and half your book of business doesn't have overland water endorsements, you need to look into that and see what's going on there because that's a potential E&O risk.
Yeah. So what I think is super fascinating about all these three areas is that the more you can connect your marketing department to all of the insight in here is where the real power is going to come from. So for example, we run, several different new business programs for brokers and carriers, and even something very simple as stay away from this location, like you just said, in terms of water, or let's say this is from an auto perspective, this is a definitely an area we do not want to target. Just by adding that to your campaign, you've now improved your campaign substantially.
Wow.
Claim, the cancellation, same thing, or looking at those premiums, looking at those high premiums, is there patterns that you can then give over to your marketing department, that they can optimize their campaigns, right? So there's just so much power in breaking down those silos between what's actually going on and with marketing.
And for those of you interested in having a database that can hypersegment and send those messages for you, just hit that scan code, and you can get a demo. I'll also put the link in the chat as well.
5, email marketing and hyper-personalization. So Tanya and I did a webinar with Mark from Goose Digital. I think it was earlier last year, right, Tan? And so we're going to link that. We're going to link that webinar in the email when we send you guys all this deck, because it's very in depth, and I think that all of that is still relevant. So we're going to just touch on a few things in this segment, but you're going to want to check that out. So email, I think, still the most cost-effective channel, but just not really being done properly. And I think a lot of it is due to busy departments, not really understanding kind of how to do it. But I think there's really this reactive versus proactive. So we're just going to touch on some of those tips. So start from the top. You're going to want to make sure that you have implemented strong deliverability and domain best practices. So this is going to be including DMARC, SPF, DKIM, and BIMI. And I think BIMI is still like a nice to have. Again, that presentation is going to break down how you actually go and do that and where to find those things. Maintaining list hygiene biannually. So this is super important even for existing customer segments. So there's a ton of tools out there for very cheap. You can scrub your list for, I think under $100 for 100,000 contacts. So that's kind of one option. I think if you're dealing with prospects lists, that is 100% a must. If you're dealing with lists that maybe have gotten a quote a year ago or 6 months ago, that is also absolutely a must. There's also little ways, and Tanya talked you talked a lot about this in the last webinar about little ways you can just do things yourself on a monthly basis. So I'm talking about things like if somebody hasn't opened an email in 3 to 6 months, you have to figure out what you're going to do with those people, because keep sending them emails every single week is actually just bringing down your average for people who actually want to read your emails. Utilize subscription management. And so we're not just saying, you know, like the basics, make sure you have an unsubscribe, make sure your footer has your phone number, your address, your business name. Make sure that you have set up preference centers. So ask your audience what they want to receive from you. And then this is kind of an advanced tactic that we touched on earlier that's going to allow you to get hyper personalized. So segmenting your list by preferences, product lines, locations, you know, and even performance. So going back to that point about, you know, don't just send emails for the sake of sending emails. If people aren't reading them, you've got to park them, figure out what they need at bare minimum, and then, you know, pass them off to producers or CSRs to get them re-opted in.
Jen, I do want to just make a comment about the subscription management center. Because Truefla does offer like an email marketing system attached to the data center, we get asked this a lot. Well, what if they unsubscribe and they our insurance emails that we send out that are like service emails? And I say, first of all, service emails are not part of Castle. If you are communicating to your customer as a customer, they can't unsubscribe to that. There is no law for that. And that's where your subscription management preference center goes into play. So it will know based on how you do your logic that for any communications, like either it's TrueMarket or whatever BMS you're using that has an email system that you can directly email your clients with, will know that this is a service email and goes through.
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
I'm trying to sell you a product email.
Yeah, exactly. And that carries through over to any of the other platforms like the HubSpots or, you know, Salesforce or the Act-Ons. Like there's, again, we break this down in that other webinar, like you said, Tan, but there's a difference between transactional communications and marketing communications. No different if you're buying a t-shirt off Amazon versus being upsold the sweatpants, you know, that correspond to your sweatsuit. Okay, so targeted educational initiatives. So focus on loss prevention and valuable insights for both prospects and customers. Provide content that is relevant and actionable rather than fulfilling a requirement. So what am I really trying to say here? I think I still see so many, both brokers, quite frankly, and carriers that are using email to almost tick a box. And I know that that's, you know, a little bit unfair to say, but they're either doing it to tick a box, and I think it's because marketing departments are so reactive and they can't get out of this reactive mode to get to proactive. But it's also, I find that email is kind of like this thought of where we want to solve a workflow problem, right? Priority number one is we want to solve a workflow problem, and we want, you know, an activity record to be written back to the BMS. And it's like, those things are all fine, but I don't see a lot of emphasis, and this is where I coach a lot of our customers into really using email to their advantage, is think about what your customer wants. Think about how you interact. Think about maybe the school emails you're getting from you're getting from your school board versus the emails that you're getting from a big brand, and how different, you know, those things you feel with those things, right? So I do think this is, you know, and how do you do that? Well, that's a tall order. Part of it is really getting out of reaction mode and listing out your priorities and what your email marketing strategy actually should look like. Branding and visual matters. I think this is a big one. You know, always look at the opportunity for your branding and visuals on email. I think that especially if you're, you know, a small or a mid-sized broker or even a large broker that doesn't have the brand identity, you know, in your area. So think about it. People are click happy, right? They're going to fill out something. They could be getting quotes from multiple different places. And if your follow-up email is not really branded well, it doesn't look good on mobile, you know, it doesn't reinforce the brand, and it's just a text-based email, I think it's going to fall flat. There's definitely a place for text-based emails, but that's usually like a one-to-one producer. We want it to look like it's coming from Tanya. We want it to be hyper personalized, but there's ways to use that properly inside the journey. So other point here, use landing pages for in-depth information rather than overwhelming an email with excessive content. So there's a ton of email privacy and restrictions. You can't just throw paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs inside an email and expect it to perform well. So a lot of these platforms have supported landing pages. If they don't, you can stand up a blog page to support what you're trying to convey. And then again, obviously, please check it on mobile. So, because remember, the longer it is, it's just going to be this never-ending pool of information.
And I think it's really important to note here, those landing pages for those longer underwriting bulletins that need to be sent out are critical, but also leveraging AI. So use AI to shorten it into a 2 to 3 sentence teaser with the most important information, and then that read more button onto your landing page. That's where AI can make your workflow so much easier.
I think one of the things, actually, you just sparked something quick here, is that, and I get big teams. We've been working with big teams for a decade, right? So one of the things you just said there, Tam, was really interesting about what you sparked, is that I know that a lot of, let's say, the marketer that's responsible for comms, right, in the brokerage, like it's not just their say, right? They've got 5 other people, a legal department, a branding department, everybody that they have to send this communication or drip campaign by, right? So to your point, I think having this awareness and education that you can also help educate the decision makers to say, look, this is kind of the best way that we have to do this. We have to shorten it, and here's why. So it's balancing what needs to be said with how it's going to perform, right?
Because at the end of the day, you have to look at how your end user is digesting information. Otherwise, it's a waste of time and resources for everybody if they're not even going to read it.
Yeah, we need more leaders that are making these decisions to come out of it and say, how would I want to receive this information, right? Okay, so when you're monitoring your email, I mean, there's a whole slew of things that are going to go into it between unengaged audiences and engaged audiences, but make sure you're looking for opportunities. Again, work with experts like us or with Trufla that look beyond just opens and clicks. Okay, so there's a ton of bot traffic on email. You want to leverage behavior scoring and things like multi-channel tracking that these platforms allow you to do, and that's going to allow you to see engagement not just with email, but okay, and then they went to read this article that I linked to. Then they went and took a look at farm insurance on our website. So you're really starting to track behavior. The other thing is that a lot of these platforms have built-in click and heat mapping, so you can actually see how far they're going down the page and what they're clicking on and what they're reading. So again, we break down email pretty extensively in the other webinar, so we will link to that. Oh, and actually this was in the other webinar, so this is good. This is just a sample of a journey, right? So take a look at this. Again, it's just kind of trying to stretch up the thinking of approach it like how you would service your customer in an ideal world, right? You can use this one if you want.
Yeah, and then break it down by personas. Like look at your book of business, look at the data, break it down by persona and and you can feed some of that data, anonymize it, don't put names or anything, but just feed some of that demographic data into your ChatGPT and ask it what their typical journey, what that typical person of that age group and city are doing. And you can build these email journeys based on that. Okay. I love this one. I love this one. So a big trend we're seeing, and this has been going on also in 2024, is lo-fi video, which basically means like lower quality video. So something that isn't highly produced and doesn't cost $20,000 to make. You're really just filming on either a DSLR or an iPhone and maybe using TikTok or Instagram to edit your videos. So they're really easy to produce. But the cool thing about these lo-fi videos is that they're actually getting more engagement and more responses and more ROI than the highly produced videos. And that, of course, goes back to what I said in the very beginning. People are starving for an emotional human connection right now. Since the pandemic, we are still very disconnected to each other. And this is one of my favorite people to follow. I follow his podcast, The Marketing School. And the reason why I like that podcast, and please, if you love marketing and you nerd out, download this podcast and listen to it. It's awesome. The content is very data-based. Research-based data. It's not just like this is my firsthand experience, but it's just, takes a lot of data points and kind of measures certain trends in the industry. And they took, I think, like 10,000 pieces or 10,000 like accounts and looked at lo-fi versus hi-fi videos. And they found that actually lo-fi videos on average are getting 11.4% more engagement. And here's the thing, I do it, Jen, you do it because we send each other reels on Instagram at night. Adults spend about 52 minutes a day watching these short form videos on social media. So you have a captive audience that you could really educate and make a connection with. All right, great. So what kind of videos would you want to make? For me, what I am seeing in terms of engagement for B2B and B2C and some of the stuff I'm doing with Trufla, anything that shows the people behind the company, like the engagement rate is insane, the click rate's insane. So maybe work on at your brokerage a behind the scenes short form video, maybe share candid moments of people working in the office, show the human side of your brand, make it like showcase what brokers do best, and that is the human element. And then do maybe casual employee spotlights, like who's managing my insurance, who's actually looking at my stuff, give it a human face. I guarantee you'll see those engagement rates soar. And then secondary to that is more the educational side. So if you were to start anywhere, do the human inside the brokerage side and then work your way here. And that is insurance is super complicated. There are a lot of complex terminology with it. Try to break it down to the most easy to understand ways in order to engage people and to actually understand. It took me a long time to figure out how life insurance works, and I am in insurance, like where does all that money come from anyway? So and maybe do a myth busting segment as well, right? Like here are common myths about insurance. I mean, when I was a broker, a couple of them were that like, hey, I bought a red Mustang and I know my rates are going to be insane because I chose the color red and not the color black. Well, we know that's a myth. And in fact, a study by JD Power said that 81% of small businesses who deeply trust their insurance providers are certain to renew and with that provider. So a way to build trust is to give really good quality, useful information.
And this is going to hold true. This is going to hold true into what I'm going to talk about in paid ads, later on in the sixth trend. But can we just quickly chat before we move on about the elephant in the room around, how we know that it's okay. Well, I didn't, I'm a producer or I'm an owner, or I just don't feel comfortable on camera. I mean, I don't think it's like, attached to a role, but maybe there's some tips we can give to say, okay, well, I never really thought I was going to be the person doing these lo-fi videos. How can I start to be more comfortable with that? So, I mean, I think we have some tips. It is something to get used to. Start with the template, right? You can definitely, to get your SMEs on board, have your marketing team provide something really simple. Tan, I think you and I spitballed this on some other kind of tips.
I mean,
right? Interview style, right?
I think for me, what I found really successful, find the people in your organization who don't mind being on camera, because you're going to have those, and make them do the camera stuff. And for maybe the leadership that have that knowledge, they're like, oh, I don't like this, I can't make those TikTok short form videos, that's not for me. Do the interview style. I find as soon as you make it an interview style, it's like the barrier shut down because they're talking directly to you about your expertise, and you can edit that into a nice short form video. I mean, for instance, Jen and I 2 years ago hated being on camera, like
Yeah.
to the point where we're like, oh gosh. And now, I mean, we still don't love it, but it just feels more natural. Have a coworker go on camera with you. Um,
But that's
Hire an
actually such a,
intern, a Gen
yes.
Z intern to do a lot of those fun reels to attract that younger generation that's now going to be buying those insurance policies from you to attract that. So there's a myriad of ways to do it. So let's move on to influencer marketing. So we're seeing a trend towards more B2C uh, businesses and actually in the financial sector using influencer marketing. And I want to go over this for you because I'm watching this very carefully, even for my own marketing that I do for B2B, because it's also on the rise there. So, a recent Forbes report noted that financial service companies using influencer strategies have seen engagement increases of over 40% year over year, and many report a return on investment figures ranging from $5 to $6 for every dollar spent. I mean, that's amazing.
Mhm.
Also, like Business Insider found that over 60% of financial marketers plan to boost their influencer marketing budgets in the next 12 months. So what does this mean? How does this translate to you? So I tried to break it down because I'm trying to do influencer marketing within my strategy, and this is how I'm thinking of it. So I want to break it down to you and how you can use it. Identify the influencers in your community, and they
Mhm.
don't have to be ones that have 100,000 followers. There's also micro influencers. They might have like 5 or 6 or 7,000 followers that people trust within your community. Identify them, ask people in your brokerage, hey, do you follow someone in the community or someone that like has a big following that you trust? Is there a financial advisor that has their own account that you trust? Identify them first. Once you have them identified, think about the compensation model. How are you paying them for this? So a lot of people, especially in the financial industry, it's more commission based, I guess, or like an affinity program where they get a cut of all the sales you get in, or it could be like how many leads come in. And of course, you have to track and measure everything and make sure that the content and the disclosures are very, very clear. So this is the content. This is exactly what I need you to say. This is how I need you to say it. Because insurance is highly regulated, I think it's really important that they follow a script and like have an agreement. Okay, so in the month of March, you're going to mention us or do this 3 to 4 times,
Yeah.
right? Do you have
Yeah.
anything to add?
Well, I think this, yeah, I do. I think that we're all seeing this in other areas, right? We see it in cosmetics, we see it in retail, but so I do think you're right. There's a ton of opportunity for the
Mhm.
insurance. You see it a lot in the States with insurance already in finance, but
Absolutely.
you're not really seeing this in Canada. So I do think that there's, a ton of opportunity. It's ground floor. And I would encourage for the compensation model, again, temper the expectations, right? When stuff like this happens, it's not just leads or sales. It's the brand recognition that you're and
Mhm.
the reach that you're going to get is going to be worth, whatever you're going to pay, again,
That's a
depending on
great point. That,
the
you
influencer
know what,
quality.
I want to say I missed that. I was just purely thinking about leads and
Cool.
affinity programs, but you're absolutely 1,000,000% correct. That brand play is so invaluable.
Mhm.
Okay,
In-app.
man,
In-app. I
Jen.
fell victim to this pretty much last night. Okay.
Tell me. Tell me.
It was just a cosmetic purchase, of course, but
Look, I said it last year. I'm going to say it again. It's continuing to grow in-app purchasing. Our consumers, like right now, we are millennial and Gen Zers are the ones who are like Gen Zs are starting to buy. Millennials are our hardcore generation. They are digital savvy, sometimes digital natives, depending on when they were born. They are used to this type of buying. Okay,
yeah,
whether they see an influencer, as we were just talking about social media, saying, you know what, I had a claim and X brokerage was like amazing. I will recommend them, click my affinity link or whatever, or like click here to buy. And I
yeah.
know we can't buy online, but you can for smaller products now, really.
Exactly.
If,
For auxiliary products, you absolutely can.
mhm. And look at this, like look at these numbers. So in-app spending reached 130 billion in 2024, and the projection for 2025 is 150 billion. So it's going to keep growing. I won't get too far into this, but basically, figure out how can you leverage that at your brokerage. It's whether or not you're going to find insurtechs like Trufla who offer a marketplace for smaller insurance products like travel, pet insurance, or whatever that you don't really have to service. It's just click and buy on the app, or like partner with someone else that you can have like a way to buy smaller insurance like cyber or something through
Yes.
your Instagram post or through your influencer marketing.
So this is
It's
super,
another revenue channel,
yes, and
right?
this is super important because I'm not going to say I fell victim to this because I think I was telling you this about a year ago. I bought a personal cyber product through TELUS, right? I've been with TELUS customer for 10 years, right? So I think to your point about you're already trusted, right? You're already trusted, especially for your existing customers. And so if you've got a Triplet technology that allows this in-app purchasing to be seamless, then it's about promoting it. You can't just, I think, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but you can't just buy tech and it's not build it and they will come. It's build it and or buy it and market it. Right. So your
100%.
customers need to be aware that there's all of these auxiliary products that they can purchase right away through an app, very easily. And you have to continuously let them know. And I mean, $99, I bought a cyber policy within 3 minutes, right?
Exactly. And look, we're all busy and we all want convenience. And this is a great way to offer that to your clients. And I always preach in whatever business you are, you have to diversify your revenue channels. You can't base it off one thing or another, as diverse as possible, because you never know what's going to happen. So you want to make sure you're covering all your bases. And this is a great way to do that. Okay, so I think we have 2 more trends coming up and we are coming short in time, but I do really want to mention some trends I'm seeing in SEO, and that is optimizing for generative AI. So we're seeing now people are using ChatGPT or Gemini to search for products. So, and I know I do it all the time now as well. So 40% of users have used AI to help shop for products. 30% AI-driven product suggestions influenced consumer purchase decisions. 28% of shoppers plan to increase using AI for their search, and 25% of consumers trust AI more than traditional search results. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your SEO strategy, or maybe talk to your SEO team about what they're doing to get you on that generative engine optimization. And let's talk about GEO. This is a new term. We have SEO, now it's GEO. So generative engine optimization is an approach that gives you visibility on search engine platforms. And also, if you've noticed now, when you're searching on Google, you have that AI that gives you the best response now. That is called the search generative experience that Google has now. I made a little handy chart. The difference between SEO and GEO. And basically, it's instead of looking at key search terms, it's looking and emphasizing the context in which people are searching. I'm not going to get into all of the details, but I assure you it is a big thing. And I think you need to start planning for it now in your SEO strategy and talk to your SEO teams or talk to us at Trufla, because we're looking at this very carefully and doing a lot of research to make sure that our companies are being found on generative AI.
That's 2. Okay, so authentic, educational, awareness-driven ads. Where are we at with ads? Next slide?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. I was like, where are we at with ads?
I know you were listening very intently.
I was so absorbed in what you were saying. Okay.
Oh, we got some animation going on. Okay, so paid education and risk prevention. So exactly what Tan was talking about in terms of lo-fi video or even sponsored reels, carousels. So why am I saying this? So, and again, we're not sure about the marketing experience on the webinar, like in terms of the audience. So I'm just going to explain this. You can't target specific audiences on these platforms without paying for it. Okay. So I think a lot of times when we think of ads, we think of brand awareness. We're going to talk about our brand and we're going to talk about all those things, or we're going to talk about lead generate, or we're going to drive leads.
Okay, so there's a big opportunity right now to be paying for educational type advertising and risk prevention. And the good news is that it's not a hard sell. Okay, so they're very, very receptive. In fact, the research shows that by the time the user is actually full, like halfway through the reel, let's say you're breaking down auto theft in Canada or what you need to prepare for fire season, right? The user is actually seeing halfway through, oh, this was a sponsored ad. So it's not a hard sell. The other good news is for about $10 a day. So this is not expensive to promote your podcast, promote your reels, promote your carousels, you know, in an educational type way. But for about $10 a day, your target audience, and if that's Tanya, she's going to see this up to 3 times, which is really important because we know that it takes up to 7 to 10 times to resonate. Contextual targeting on premium sites. So this is really, really important. If you're running display ads, you should be only targeting premium sites, and you can do this by building a list in ChatGPT or Google. So this means that your ads are only going to show up on Auto Trader, Financial Post, Weather Network, those types of sites. And this is going to help you reduce a ton of waste and bot traffic. Okay, so these shouldn't take you any more than 20 minutes, half an hour to build this list. I know I'm going very quickly here. AI-powered paid media optimization. So we're not going to dive super deep into this, but you can be using AI now to do your bidding strategies and your predictive analytics in real time. And then this one's interesting. The real time and ad copy and creative adjustments based on user engagement. So the whole point I want to say here is that same thing that you were saying on the last trend is that you gotta start researching this because your competitors are doing it. The bigger competitors that have a ton of money that are pouring money into these channels are obviously on this as well. The other thing I want to say is that we're seeing Goose Digital seeing a ton of success. We run about $4 million a year in paid media for our clients. We're seeing a ton of success in being able to be agile. Okay, so there's a market trend. There's something going on. You know, I'm not going to talk about the specific strategies on this call, but being able to react quickly to that, right? Not taking 4 weeks to go through iteration cycles. So being able to react through budget and then through those optimization changes, we are seeing a significant boost in quality leads, right? First party data versus third party data, super important. Again, you guys are going to have this deck that you can research. So what does first party data mean? It means using your own CRM or BMS data or data that you've collected personally over the years to engage visitors. I understand the insurance industry has a lot of privacy here, so there's still ways that you can get around this versus just pulling lists and uploading them into Meta and LinkedIn and what have you. This third-party data is data that you're purchased, or it's cookie-based data, or it's data that you're getting from these social media platforms. So you're going to have to figure out how to lean more to the first-party data because it's the cookie-based data is going to be gone. It's going to be phased out in 2025. Interactive ad formats for lead generation. Again, we're all seeing these in different industries, retail, all these other types of industries. So you can, play around with that. Canva has a ton of different templates. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And then video ads are the primary ad format. So exactly what Tanya was saying is that those lo-fi videos, promoting those education-based, you're going to have a ton of success. The other thing, just to quickly touch on here before we move on, is that the same thing with the premium ad sites, like the list of sites you want to show up on, you can do the same thing for your video ads. So quick example of that is if you're trying to do a mid-market commercial contractors campaign, paid video campaign, you don't really want to be showing up on the Coco Melon YouTube channel, right? So somebody used that example in our office and I thought it was hilarious. So anyways, we're here for you if you want to break down this in more detail.
Look, I'm going to say I tried to manage ads on my own at TrueFlint, and it's super complicated. It's a lot of work. So if you can, I would outsource ads. It is a highly specialized field for a reason.
And it's
I
changing.
feel like it's like the stock trade. Like that's
Yeah.
how I felt when I was doing it, because you
Yeah.
constantly have to pay attention. Is it dipping? What do I need to do? How do I need to adjust? And most brokerages don't have the time
Yeah.
or resources for that.
And there are so many little opportunities that if you know this business as intimately as we do, there's so many opportunities where small brokers, mid brokers, even large brokers, they can play against bigger players that are pouring a ton of money. So anyways, there's lots of little avenues, but you definitely need to know the insurance business. And you also need to, be completely abreast what's going on in these channels. These are just the key takeaways, okay, that we recap. So maximizing your budget, following some of these trends, you're going to maximize your budget, ditch the hard sell on these campaigns and start going after education. Reduce waste, okay, wasted dollars, leveraging AI and first party data, premium ad placement, and then testing and agility is key. It can't take you 3 months to set up iterations of your ads.
Okay, so we're kind of at the end, right?
We are at the end.
Great. Well, this is a little bit about how to get a hold of Jen if you're interested in any of the topics we talked about. And yeah, I think, oh, yes, this is really important. So we have a collaboration with Jeff from Quick Facts to talk about the education awareness campaigns that we really need to start as a collective in the insurance industry doing for our consumers. And that's happening on March 19th. So we've put the link in the chat. Please register. Jeff is amazing. He knows his stuff, and he's so much to learn from Jeff at Quick Facts. And of course, we're going to be there to tag along as well. And thank you. Thank you for staying with us for the whole hour. See those animations, Canva, cutting off that logo. But that's all right. You know who we are, and your head too. But thank you. Thank you for joining us. And we will send you a copy of the deck, all the links that we were referring to. You can connect with us on LinkedIn to chat if you have any questions or you want to learn more about anything. And yeah, thanks again for being here today. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you for all your amazing work.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.